For dryland farmers, retaining soil moisture and the proper nutrients isn't always easy. Various techniques have to be used. We spoke with UNL Dryland Cropping System Specialist Dr. Cody Creech to learn the challenges farmers face and what they do to stay profitable.
The row crops in the dryland system, what they do for us is they provide us a much greater opportunity for income potential. There's a lot more value there with those row crops, specifically corn, a sunflower, and some folks have started to look at soybean out west. And anytime we can use those crops successfully, those are always going to be our most profitable rotations. Our challenge with cover crops in western Nebraska is the idea that those cover crops are going to be using that moisture that we need for our crop. The issue we face is if we can't get a return on the cover crop, if it doesn't provide us enough benefit and it costs us a few inches of water, it's going to really hurt our ability to generate income. And so we're trying to find where those cover crops best fit. The idea is that most likely they're going to best fit if we can find a way to get some type of value off of them, whether that's grazing them part of the time or using a crop instead of like a cereal rye, using a wheat serves more or less as a cover crop where it overwinters when most fields are bare. And so using those winter crops to serve as cover crops and still allow us to harvest them, we get some of those same benefits. First thing we learned from that Dust Bowl era was that intense tillage when combined with drought is a bad recipe. And so Charlie Fenster championed that idea of residue management, and the more residue we can get on the soil surface, the better off we are to protect that soil from erosion and to conserve soil moisture. And so what we're trying to do is keep as much residue on the surface as we can, and that helps to increase the amount of water that we're able to keep in that soil. As we diversify what we're doing, that actually mitigates a lot of our risk, and that might be risk from diseases or pests, weeds, whatever they are. It also helps mitigate things in the market. If wheat prices crash and we're a wheat fallow farmer, we don't have anything else to fall back on, and so that diversification helps us be more resilient in profitability and sustainability, especially as we have other crops to market. This past year is a good example where we had low prices in corn and wheat, but producers that had field peas or chickpeas, those were actually did quite well last year because of the droughts that were up north in the Dakotas and into Canada. So having those different crops in our system helps us to weather those low prices or pest issues. The diversification kind of goes with not only the crops as far as different crops, but it's also the idea of getting outside of traditional cereal crops and looking at forage crops. That could be also the inclusion of cattle and grazing or haying those forage crops. Any way we can diversify what we're doing, again, just to get away from that, we're a wheat fallow farmer and that's all we do. Anytime we can stretch ourselves into different avenues, that helps mitigate that risk. I like using corn out there because of the upside, but that's also the riskiest thing that we do out there. And so having other things that we can do to mitigate that risk, because at some point we're going to have a failure where we don't get that crop yield that we're after in the corn, but we'll have other things we can fall back on. Well, in western Nebraska, I think that's a really good example of a resilient cropping system, because those producers never know how much rain they're going to get in a given year. So that might be 12 inches one year, it might be 20 inches the next year, and they have to be able to adjust and manage that type of a system. And so when we think the system in general, it all has to work together or it's not going to work at all. And so it's really changed in the last 20, 30 years with that diversification and intensification as we got away from the wheat fallow system, which was it was good for its time, but we've learned that there's more efficient and better ways to do things now.